What's up, guys? It's your girl Cassie, and today we're going to be going over my super complex but easy to set up audio setup. What's up, guys? Cassie Joy here. I am a veteran streamer of 9 years over on Twitch. I'm a former Mixer partner, and I am a professional video and audio engineer in the rock and roll touring industry. And today I'm going to tell you guys how I have my audio set up in such a way on my stream that doesn't require a lot of additional hardware and allows me to get this crisp sounding voice without spending thousands of dollars on additional audio equipment on like a Go XLR and hardware compressors and that sort of stuff. So the first piece of software I use is called Voicemeeter. It's a digital mixer of sorts. So a lot of streamers will tell you buy an XLR mixer and plug in all your inputs into that, and that can be really confusing if you don't know audio. And it's very expensive to get a mixer. You can buy really cheap mixers for like $80 or $50, but they're not going to sound good, and they're not going to have all the features you want, and they're going to have features that you will never touch. So I have found that using software solutions in the streaming world, at least when you're getting started, is the best way to go. My recommendation of choice is Voicemeeter Potato. It gives you 3 digital inputs, and there's 5 hardware inputs. I usually use 2 of them, one for my voice meter, or one for my mic, and then the other one will be a capture card audio for like my Switch or my PlayStation or something. And then there's 3 digital audio sources in Voicemeeter Potato. These are basically other things your computer will see as sound cards. So if I were to like go down here into the sound menus, there's always a bunch of sound devices. Voicemeeter adds a bunch more of these, but they're super useful. In Windows, you can assign different things to different outputs on your mother or different sound cards, different drivers through the default Windows sound management app. So you can set things to be on, like Spotify, I could set that to be on a Voicemeeter only input, which I do. So I have 3 digital channels in Voicemeeter. One is set to Spotify, one is set to Discord, and then one is just everything else on my PC. That way, I have separate control, a very fine separate control over all of these things through software without having to open up the Windows Task Manager and do all sorts of Windows stuff. It's right here in front of me. And the best thing is, if you get a MIDI controller for like $50 that has some faders on it, you can map all these via MIDI and control them all that way if you wanted to. So you would still have hardware control without spending the $500 on like a Go XLR or a good mixer. I suppose before I get too deep into it, I should start at the beginning of the change. So, for my microphone, I use an Electro Voice RE320. This is an expensive microphone. You probably don't need this microphone. You can get by with something like a Rode Procaster or a USB mic even. A Rode Podcaster sounds great. I recommend the Rode Pod mic. I think it sounds excellent. I love Rode mics. I'm a former film student, so I kind of came up with Rode mics. And then an audio interface to plug an XLR mic into. I use the Behringer UMC2, which has Midas preamps. It's the same preamps that are in the Go XLR, so you're getting the same sort of sound quality for only about $50. A lot of people recommend the Focusrite 2i2, but I find that it has gain problems in the way that when you start to mess with the gain, you start to peak very easily. The Behringer UMC2 is very easy to tune in. It's super flat, and it just plugs into my computer with USB, and it goes. And then I route all of that stuff into VoiceMod first. VoiceMod is a cool little software that allows you to change up your voices. This is how I will do my voice changes on stream, and gives you a bunch of different sound effects you can play with. If you buy the Pro version, it's only like $15. You can make your own effects, but there's plenty of custom or preset voices that you can use right off the bat. And this is how I'll do the gerbil voice or the Alistair voice or like my fan gimmick. Bunch of other different voices that you can do with it. It's a super handy software. And when you set it up, it always has you put an input into it. So this would be my USB microphone. This is my USB sound card. And then my output is Voicemeeter VIO3. This is just so I can monitor it. This is usually off. This creates its own mic device inside of Windows so that when you go to hardware input in Voicemeeter, which is the next software we'll be using that I explained earlier, I could just click the voice mod virtual device W, and that will be my microphone for Voicemeeter now. I use a Stream Deck to be able to control voice mod because there's a plugin for it, so I can do
my gerbil voice whenever I want.
Or the echo! And then just switch back to my default voice whenever I need to. It's really good to make an interactive stream design, but you can skip all of this stuff, and you can just put your USB mic straight into Voicemeeter if you so please. So the next step I do is I put all of my mic audio through a vocal processing chain digitally. So VSTs, or virtual studio instruments, are often given flack because they don't sound as warm or crisp as hardware implementations, but I don't find that to be true in 2019. VSTs will give you some nice warm analog sound, and unless you're a complete audio snob, you're not really gonna be able to tell the difference. And this will be able to up your audio quality just a little bit globally. So what I do is a little bit of a workaround with inside of Voicemeeter. So Voicemeeter has these really cool ability to do inserts. So if you go to system settings in Voicemeeter, you'll see these patch inserts. And I enable them for in one left and in one right. And that corresponds to the first channel here on my mixer. The next thing I'm doing is I'm using a software called Cantabile, which you can find a download link in the description below. It is a VST host software. So you can load virtual instruments or virtual studio instruments into it and be able to modify whatever frequency you have coming in and send it back out on the same line, so you don't have to do anything else. You just have to check those two boxes inside of Voicemeeter. There's a whole setup to go with Cantabile. So when you're setting up Cantabile, you're going to be going through the things, and the most important thing to pick is when it tells you to pick the audio driver, you need to pick ASIO, Voicemeeter Potato, insert virtual ASIO. And that should be all of the tweaking that you need to do in order to get this feed through. When you start a new Cantabile project, this entire thing will be blank. You'll have to connect your main mixer to your main speakers, and that's how you get basic audio functionality back to Voicemeeter. If you don't connect those two things, there will be no voice coming through to your Voicemeeter channel. Next, I use a suite of plugins that is completely free and super high quality called Reaper plugin. Reaper plugins is well known throughout the industry to be solid, well organized, well put together plugins that don't cause any extra like CPU usage unless you're using them for something really dumb. So all you need to do is download the Plugins VST v2.36 64-bit and set a custom VST folder inside of Cantabile by going to options and then going to plugin options inside of Cantabile and then just adding a VST folder. The next stuff I'm going to tell you is super subjective, and I'm just going to point out that I'm not giving you guys any official audio device. This is just how I do things. This is what works for my voice. Everybody's voice is different. So tuning of audio things is always different for other people. So I'm just going to go over for the basics, okay? So the first thing I add inside of Cantabile is a compressor plugin. So you'll be able to hover over next to your main microphone, and there'll be a plus button right there. You can click that, click plugin, and you'll want to insert the Recomp standalone, which I'm going to delete that since I already have mine. And you'll be able to double click it, and then you'll get this pop-up window. So when you open it up, it's going to look like this. You're going to have 4 different bands. I would go along to each one of them and delete the band and just leave one of them. And we're just going to do a basic overall compression method over the entire audio track for your voice. If you know a little bit more about audio, go ahead and do a little bit more multi-band tweaking, but this is just to get you started. So basic mic levels are between a 1.75 to a 4.0 ratio. On this band right here, and you're gonna have to change it depending on your microphone. I can't tell you what it's gonna be. You're gonna have to figure that out yourself. For the RE320 and my voice, I have found that these are the best settings for doing single band compression, but experience may vary. Again, works for my voice. It sounds good for my voice. That's what I'm going with. The next thing that we're going to drop into Cantabile is going to be a gate. A gate stops your voice, stops noise coming through when you're not from your microphone when you're not talking. So it gets rid of the fan noise in the background, or maybe there's a little bit of muttering from the living room. It'll cut out that sort of noise if you set it up properly. So same process. Press the plus button, bring in a plugin. You'll bring in the RIA gate standalone. You open that, and then this one's really easy to tweak. You just stay silent. And whatever your room noise is when you're completely silent, put this line a little bit above it, and that will be how you get that crisp, no background noise audio. It won't cut out everything, and if you want to, tweak with the settings, but that is pretty much all you need to do for the gate. You don't need to mess with the attacker release or anything. The default setting on the regate is pretty good for just stream audio on your mic, because you're gonna have other noises in the background like your game and music and stuff anyway. And then I do a little bit of EQing. I can't tell you how to EQ. I just go with what sounds good. I trust my ear. I couldn't tell you, I could EQ your voice, but I couldn't tell you what you need to change to EQ your voice. So maybe don't do EQ, or just add a little bit of a high and a low bump. But here's my settings for those who have a voice similar to mine and want to EQ. This is what I do to EQ my voice, and we can see it pretty easily if I pop over here, and this is without the EQ. So I think this sounds better. That's subjective, but that is the basics of my audio setup, and then that feeds into the main speaker on Cantabile, and all of that just feeds back into Voicemeeter, and that's how I use Voicemeeter. Another couple things that I do with Voicemeeter is I use submixes a lot. So I do VR streaming a lot, and I need to pump audio from skits into the game. So Voicemeeter has a really cool feature that allows you to have multiple audio outputs of Voicemeeter. By default, Voicemeeter has 3 digital outputs as well as your physical outputs. Your physical outputs you can assign up here. I have multiple. I have my wireless Bluetooth headphones that I wear around the house. I have my USB audio interface, and then I have my Vive because I use the audio headset on the Vive. Down here is 3 virtual audio outputs. These are labeled B1, B2, and B3 inside of a Voicemeeter. You're going to have to figure out which ones these are inside of your recording devices. Usually they're well labeled to the thing that they are labeled here. So this would be Voicemeeter Potato Virtual Out, Virtual Aux, and VIO3 is generally what they will be referred to as. I use the Virtual Out to go into OBS. This will get all of my channels. This will all get B1s. And then the aux output will generally just get the things that I want people in Discord to hear. And then this is how I will feed things into Discord, VR chat, any game that has a voice feature. This is how I will feed them with the Voicemeeter Virtual Aux. So that will allows me to do things like not send Spotify, or send Spotify to VR chat, or to pump a Discord call into VR chat while we're having a conference, or be able to bleep myself when I fucking curse inside of Discord or on stream. That is a very powerful tool, and that's one of the main reasons I use Voicemeeter. And I switched from my full console audio setup with a bunch of faders and mixers and all this other stuff to this 4 years ago, and I have not looked back since, because this setup is complicated to set up, but once you have it working, it is the best audio setup for a streamer to date, in my opinion. And that is my audio setup, guys. Thank you for listening. If you understood that, thumbs up. It's very complicated, or at least it seems like it when you first listen to all of it, but I can assure you it's easy. If you have any more questions, please join me on my Twitch channel. We talk about tech stuff all the time. I love teaching people. Twitch.tv/Cassie_Joy. There's a link in the description. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I often give advice on OBS and other things, and then just kind of talk about like living life as a trans woman and being a streamer for so long and all those sorts of kinds of things. I'll see you guys in the next one. Be sure to like and subscribe. Peace out.
Are you an adult?